Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is James from the Movement of Sustainable Salons. We're here with another awesome call with some really good information. Obviously, my partners in crime over there in Victoria Island, Kurtis, Chantelle. What's going on, guys? How are you?
Hey, James. Awesome. The weather's now, and we're just loving Victoria and keeping strong in the salon industry.
It's nice. We're experiencing our weird version of whatever season it is here in New York, and our good friend Avrohom is down on that bottom. Avrohom, how are you, man? Welcome to the Movement of Sustainable Salons.
Hey, James. I'm doing awesome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Avrohom and I could talk about the weather all day because, it goes from 55 to 95 down to raining, down to something. Where we had the four seasons, Frankie Valli would be pretty upset about the fact that we're down to two seasons, but he probably could have started more than one group with only two seasons. But things are pretty good. We're going to talk a little bit today about phone systems, phone etiquette, your front line of defense in terms of your salon. I know we've always touched on the salon coordinator or that first person that you see when you walk in the salon being one of the integral parts of your business itself. But, the systems behind it, I know, Kurtis and I tend to be the techies in our salons that in terms of dealing with the marketing and some of the services that we provide in the software. But I know some salons, big and small, really don't have any knowledge whatsoever about some of the options that are out there and some of the new things that you can do in terms of phone systems, in terms of navigating things. But Avrohom, why don't you tell us a little bit about your company out here in Spring Valley, New York?
Sure. So I guess a little bit about myself, a little bit about my company. So who am I? So basically, I'm a serious person. I have very strong ethics, and I seriously care about a customer's needs as if they were my own business. So, that's just the core of who I am. And, my expertise, my passion is what defines me. I'm passionate about communications, about phones, and I'm passionate about helping people. And so therefore I became what's known as a telecommunications consultant. So my company, Simiplex Technologies, is a telecommunications consulting firm. And I've founded the company on the core principle of simplifying my customers' needs through innovative, unparalleled solutions and customer service. So, so that's basically what I do. And I've been in the telecommunications industry for about 20 years. I've worked at various companies. I've worked at Avaya, which is the #1 telecommunications firm in the world. I was there for about 7-8 years. And after that, I decided that, I love this so much, I'm going to form my own business and help customers and, do the stuff that I love to do.
No, it's great. Avrohom, here's a great question. So I come out of the tech industry, so I'm really familiar with Avaya as a company and some of the things that they have in terms of phone systems, especially. I guess as a precursor, some salons, so, the salons that we work with the movement could be anywhere as few as 1 or 2 chairs all the way up to 20 chairs. I know our particular situation is we had taken over an existing salon that has this crazy high-end NEC phone system that's built in already. And, we had to actually bypass some of it because we dialed down what we needed based on what must have been in there as a previous business. With the new voice over IP technology and things like that, you talk about an Avaya system and all the awesome things that it does in terms of conference calling and things for an office. But how does the new technology really apply to a salon that may need phones and easy access locations and may have multiple receptionists and things like that? But do you need one of these big Avaya systems, or are there some solutions that you can provide that can take some of the easier things and easier to manage cost-wise and clunkiness, I guess you'd say, from a technology perspective?
And just to also just kind of frame this conversation too, also is that for us, what we're doing here in this call is that we were looking for a phone solution because we've got something from Staples. It's just a one line corded phone and then 2 cordless phones, and we're running all of our salon communications from that. Obviously, it's done the trick, but we're looking for a little bit more sophisticated solution to be able to raise the bar a little bit with the ability to actually quiet the salon down a bit with the amount of rings that are going into the salon, audible, and then also allow for the receptionist to be able to do her tasks quickly and efficiently so that we can use this as a way to create sustainability within the salon itself. And we can talk a little bit about that in the future. But, just to frame it so that everybody knows why we're even talking about phones here, this is the reason. We're doing a consultation online so that it takes the mystery out of it. Avrohom is going to talk to us a little bit about what he has for solutions for us, and James has a little bit more background in this too, so he's going to give a little bit more of the technical side. So, and then Chantelle, the usability. So, because she's in the salon every day. James, I know you are as well. I used to answer the phones, but not anymore. So, take it away, Avrohom.
Sure. So James, to answer your question, the reason why I love Avaya, and I think Avaya would be the perfect solution for the salons, is that Avaya scales up and down. Okay, so you have Avaya for these big monster call centers, thousands of agents, and then they also scale down to small businesses, salons with 5 or 10 phones. So they do have different packages for different business needs. So I think in terms of size and scalability, I think that will be a perfect fit. And then indeed, as your business grows, you can add to it. And think of this: let's say you have a multi-site salon. You have a salon in 3 different locations. You could integrate the 3 of them and then call 3-digit extensions between your different salons. So
yeah, I love that idea, man. I think that's a big. We've spent some time talking about front end coordination in terms of the salon business. Just personally with us, we've been Design House and the Beehive has been really lucky over the past couple of months. We've had some awesome powwow meetings like in person, which in most cases we kind of are left to doing these remote and over the phone. Kurtis and I burn in the midnight oil, East Coast, West Coast style, but the scalability, I think it's kind of a word that doesn't hit the salon industry so much, which from the sustainability side, it's got multifacets, right? Being able to scale the business back and forth, whether it's busy seasons or different things. And it obviously is applicable to phone systems as well. But I feel like if you had 3 salons, so, there's plenty of people that have multi-salons. So I don't know how many they go up to, or, maybe it's 2 and up is kind of your number. If you could consolidate your front end coordination in terms of booking your appointments and things, and as Kurtis mentioned, not having, the ring all day long while you're trying to create a relaxing experience, you'd save a ton of dough, first of all, which is always a good thing. You'd also be able to consolidate tasks in terms of having that coordination side of it kind of being unified between locations. It's really rare, and I'm sure Chantelle can attest to this, that if a client had a super technical hair question or one of her clients had a question, if she's behind the chair, it's not like it's 911. I have a blonde emergency. Can you get Chantelle and take her away from that client? I have a question. You'd probably have to call them back anyway. So if there was somebody that was able to queue that up, who cares? I mean, it creates a better in-salon experience for the people that are there. And I feel like the people that are calling in might appreciate the fact that when they go there, it's not going to be like ringing and loud music and craziness, and that it's more of a Zen atmosphere to begin with.
Yeah, we have online booking, so we do take away some of the calls, but we've noticed that to give a frame of reference, we have a receptionist, client experience coordinator that handles the calls. But if she's busy on both lines, then sometimes the stylist will pick up and help out with the calls. Our concern is that a lot of the calls aren't really high priority, that, even though we love that people are calling in and we're really excited about it, that a lot of the calls could be filtered or funneled in a certain way to be more efficient. So that way, when our client experience coordinator is working with one particular individual, that she won't be interrupted in any capacity unless it was something really emergent. There's a lot of other calls, I think, that so what we're looking for is to make it so that the ringer isn't loud for everybody to be hearing phones, because it creates an anxiety almost sometimes within the salon itself, and also stylists like thinking, oh, I need to grab the phone, and it takes them away from their job and stuff like that. And plus, we don't have a receptionist all the time, so it would be nice to have it so that when the clients are phoning, that unless it's something of huge priority, that it doesn't actually ring, that it gets put into some sort of system where we can start getting them to go through, like, press 1 for an appointment, or press 2 to request a call back from a receptionist, or press 3 to contact because it's an urgent matter, and then we can start prioritizing that call volume. And do you have anything to add to that with regards to our requirements?
Like what they would be calling, like which other funnels go down, you mean?
No, just about like the phone system in general. Do you see other needs that we need for
like accounting or billing or something like that?
No. Yeah, and to add to Kurtis's point, and I feel their pain completely. So, we're our particular salon, we're not really a walk-in salon. We're at least a week to get an appointment, and we've conditioned our regular clients to kind of understand that. So unfortunately for me, I wear a lot of hats. You come in and either inventory needs to be done, or whatever time of month it is, you're planning for one-on-one meetings and things like that. So I look at the schedule and I see that, hey, there's a break in the schedule for about a half hour because people are either under the dryer or whatever it is, or getting finished. So I'm like, hey, perfect opportunity. Let me, clean the bathrooms. Who cares? Whatever it is. And then the phone rings with something redundant, we'll say. Majority of our clients, I would say 75% and up, rebook their appointments upon leaving. We've sort of conditioned them that way. So unless it's an appointment change and things like that, which are not really hot priority, if it's a sales call or something nonsensical, I don't need to take those calls. Like, on a Friday at the end of the month when they're trying to meet their numbers, and here we're trying to get our clients in before 4th of July weekend or Memorial Day weekend. And it's like, hey, it's 2:00 on a Friday. It's perfect time to call the hair salon. And it's like, listen, man, I got 6 clients checking out, 6 clients checking in, and you're trying to sell me a widget. Who cares? It would be nice, but the question that I would have for you, based on what Kurtis said, is I feel like clients now are so conditioned to get that press 1 for directions, press 2 for an appointment, press 2, 3 for whatever, that I feel like everywhere you call, I get that all day long. Is that a problem in terms of service, or do people expect that? And how many prompts do you think are like too many or not enough, or what do you think you've seen? And I know Avaya does some really vast things, but what's your opinion on it, Avrohom?
So my take on this is always simplicity. Okay. There are many businesses, like you said, James, that will have multi-level automated attendants. That's the official term for the menus, by the way. I see a beauty salon being a very personal touch kind of business where clients want to feel like they're taken care of and not relegated to voicemail jail. Okay, so
okay, I
would recommend a simple menu. Nothing too complex. But something like, to book an appointment, press 1, or 0. 0 will always, or 0 actually will default to the receptionist. Okay. So you could do something like, to book an appointment, press 1, to request a call back from a receptionist, press 2. And then Kurtis, you mentioned urgent, emergency. So like if there's an emergency, press 3. And, I would leave it at that. And then maybe 0 would be, just the general receptionist.
I feel like that would just be the same as calling, though, because people will be like, oh, boom. For me, if I call an automated system, I just repetitively hit 0 until I get somebody, because I don't want to waste time going through menus. So, I don't think press 1 to book an appointment is appropriate. I think it would be, for me, it would be like,
leave it 0.
Thank you for calling. In order for us to serve you better, we'd love for you to leave us a message. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Press 1 to leave that message now. Press 2 to hear our upcoming promotions, or press 3 to connect you to a line if this is an urgent matter and you need to talk to somebody right now. And you know what I mean? That way their options are emergency, promotions. Oh, that's kind of cool. I got the time to listen to that. Or, okay, I got to leave a message and I'm expecting a call back.
Well, okay, before you answer, Avram, I want to add, because that's an awesome point. Okay. So here's what I would ask Chantelle and Kurtis as other salon owners. So there's certain policies that are going to apply to every hair salon. Doesn't matter what product line, whether it's a Davines salon like we are, or whether it's whatever product. The respect factor is it's a 24-hour cancellation policy at least. Different salons that have problems with that have different penalties. Hey, if it's under 24 hours, we're going to charge you for the appointment and things. It's a hard thing to mediate at some point. We have a lot of clients that are moms, kids get sick, things happen. I don't want them to be repeat offenders, but you got to let them slide on one of them. But Chantelle's point or adding to her point is, could you have a business where you say, hey, we don't answer the phone during the day at all, because that's sort of our environment. If you didn't, you're not going to call me. There's such a rare occasion that you're going to call me at 10 in the morning when we open and say, hey, is there an appointment available today? We're a 6-chair salon like they are. No, we're booked. And to be honest with you, even if I'm not booked, meh. You know what I mean?
We do have.
It's not that easy to just be a walk on here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, we do often get, can I get in today? And because I have stylists on hand, we can often, not usually, but we can often accommodate, especially a haircut. However, if somebody's calling today, then they would leave that message. My receptionist is checking the messages at her convenience. So it's not like we're not checking it until the end of the day, but we're checking them at our convenience, and we'll get back to them in priority sequence. And, that would be a priority. Somebody that's like, hey, I want to get in with Chantelle next Friday, and I maybe, need this and this. Give me a call. I need to chat about it. Fine, I'll call them back later, because I already know they want to see Chantelle. They're already committed to that. Whereas somebody calling in right now is probably on their lunch break, and they're Googling salons, and we get a lot of people find us on Google. So if they're on Google and they don't hear from us right away, I can pretty much guarantee they're going to hang up and call the next salon that can take them. So I do want to make sure that I'm on top of getting back to those people right away, but not right now. We lost you.
James, we lost your audio.
Oh, can you hear me okay now? I love the point. And Avram, I'm sorry. We're this is getting into the meat and potatoes of what you do.
This is great stuff. No, this is great stuff, because, I can't do anything without listening to what you guys have to say. So this is awesome stuff.
Well, and I guess to Chantelle's point, which is a great point. It's so you want your salon to be exclusive. You know that you're going to get a lot of people that call in that find you on Google Plus or on Yelp and things like that, they're in a younger area, right? So I would think Victoria Island is a lot. Oh, okay. I'm not committing ageism, but, we have a lot of older gray coverage type clients where we are, and Avram knows, right? So we're Avram and I are literally probably 5 miles from each other, even right now. But, it's a different mindset in what they do. So they're a little more regimented because they don't want to be gray, and they're in their 50s or 60s. So they're structured, where you guys are in more of a happening area where it's hey, I feel like getting my haircut today. Haven't had a cut in 17 years. You know, so it's hard to figure out from a phone system perspective is what counts as an important call, what counts as a call that's going to take time away from either your stylist, your front desk, your master stylist, like in Chantelle's case. Like, what are you willing to take and lose and move without getting inundated? So, you know, from my end,
have to be inundated. Like if you've got somebody, I could see if you've let go of your receptionist in order to count on your automated phone system. But in this situation, you still have somebody there checking out clients, greeting people. And so there is downtime within that day that they can check the messages and get back to them. And I would just have like, you know, 4 things that I would educate the receptionist on as how these people fall into these 4 categories and who's priority to get back to. And I mean, if we can handle answering the phone all day, surely we can handle getting back to people by the end of her shift, right? So, I mean, as far as things being urgent, it would be like, hey, I've got an appointment in 20 minutes, I'm running late, and I just wanted to call and tell my stylist. That's urgent. Like, direct me to them so I can tell them that I'm running late. Or, you know, I can't make it into my appointment today, even though there's a 24-hour cancellation policy.
Or
like,
I can't find your salon.
Or I can't find your, what's your location,
Yeah.
parking, that kind of stuff is urgent for sure. So, and I would assume as a client that you could reword that statement, but, you know, they could figure that out, that would be an urgent call, and all the other ones, we can get back to them. Or we could even, you know, if we've got there, you could say, would you prefer a call back or an email back? And then she's emailing or whatever with options, right? Because now I see it being also a lot more efficient for the client in the sense that if I call and I'm asking for this, and this, and then I got to look for it. Whereas on the answering machine, I might say, hi, I want to get in with blah, blah, blah. And I can get in next Friday, next Saturday, and the Thursday after that. Now the receptionist is calling back with options and saying, no problem, done, end of story, see you next Thursday, not hemming and hawing on the phone, looking for an appointment and going back and forth.
Yeah, it would cut down a lot of time. It'd be a lot more efficient.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are good points. And I know, you know, poor Avrohom, Avaya does many amazing things, my friend, but I don't know if it actually is AI enough yet to replace a body. But so our 2 salons, we can go back and forth all day from, you know, from what is a reasonable time. You know, we close at 6 o'clock one night. You call me at midnight. We get in at 10. I'm printing the schedule. We're doing our quick staff meeting in the morning every day. We're turning the coffee machine on, and you call me at 10:01 and say, you know, I left you a message. I know you did at 1:30 in the morning, because unfortunately I'm techie enough that my cell phone rings when I'm not in the salon, and I just got here, man. I'm trying. But what do you think? I know you thought a lot about the salon industry when we talked, you know, you and Kurtis talked a few days ago about coming on. Like, are there some, Avaya or not, but are there some things that you can think of from being an innovator in a complex world that can help solve some problems?
So, yeah. So, you know, I've been listening to the back and forth. And let me ask you a question. How would you feel about having your cake and eating it too? So, you know.
What kind of cake?
Low calorie. So, you know, here's what I'm getting, right? You know, the salon is an exclusive place. You don't want to give the impression that their calls are not welcome, but at the same time, you know, your time matters, and your main business is serving your clients and taking care of the people that are there. So how can we set up the phone system, or how can we set up your communications environment? All right, let's not deal with products, but more of, you know, your environment, so that you can present a friendly attitude while at the same time protecting your interests. So what I'm thinking is like this. Chantelle mentioned that there's some downtime during the day. So what if you had the ability to push a button on your phone and let the phone ring during the time that you have downtime, but when you don't have downtime, that call will go to the general mailbox so they can leave a message.
Yeah, or
I like it.
manually, yeah, exactly. Manually editing the amount of rings. Like for me, I think if you just always had that, when they call, instead of it directly going to an automated service, it rings once or maybe even twice. I know it's still interrupting the salon. However, if it rang once or twice, if the receptionist is there and she's got time, she can pick it up. But if she's busy, she knows that it'll directly go, right? And the client's not waiting for 7 rings to find out that, oh, these people must just not be answering. You know, it'd be very obvious that it would be an automated system after 1 ring.
Or maybe not a ring, maybe just a beep.
Or a beep, yeah, that'd be a good idea.
When it's, so that people aren't hearing that whole ring. But I love that, Avrohom, because you're saying that there is some flexibility, that you don't have to be handcuffed into a system that you have to use all the time. That way you could have the flexibility that if the receptionist is there and ready to answer the phone, hit the button and she's good to go. She's ready to go live.
Well, listen, I have a special announcement to make. Every time that we do one of these calls with the movement, we have something cool and innovative, whether it's a new product from Davines or not. But, for us 70s kids like me, Avrohom has this really awesome bat phone now that doesn't even ring. It just lights up red and blinks at the front desk. So he's got the exclusives on that. He's got a connection with Urban Outfitters, but we're going to have a pre-release for anybody. If you go to the salonmovement.com and sign up today, you're going to be able to buy that phone from Avrohom for $1,000 today only. And then it goes, I'm only kidding, but you got to admit, right? If you had a phone that like lit up and it actually added to the ambiance of the salon versus like, I feel like maybe I'm getting old in my 40s. Every single ringtone sucks for me. Like there's not a ringtone that I'm like, hey man, that's like my tone. Like I haven't worn cologne in years, but I could walk into Nordstrom's tomorrow and pick out 5 that I'm like, that suits me. There's not a ringtone that like, every time the phone rings, it's like my dog barking. I get like lose my shit. It's like crazy. What do you got? Does Vaya have any ringtones that are like, you have anything for me?
Hi, Jimmy. Somebody wants to talk to you.
Well, I used that.
We got a ringtone.
It's so funny.
Sounds like a ringer.
It is. It's like the doorbell. If you have kids or you have a dog, if somebody rings your doorbell, my door has never been locked in the 12 years that we've lived here, even before we had kids, because then we had cool friends that would just show up. Now it's like I go to sleep, my car is not locked. I mean, if anybody watching the movement, I leave money in the car too. It's a bad habit. But the doorbell rings and I'm turned into those like old Italian. I'm like, the doorbell? Who's ringing the doorbell? It's, it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Who's ringing the bell? And it's the same thing in the salon with the phone. It's like the phone's ringing. And it's a funny analogy. I have a summer PA, somebody that's more on the accounting front that I brought on to kind of help out and do some things for the next 8 or 9 weeks. And we're working on a project for Kurtis and Chantelle to come into New York next week or this weekend coming up.
Yay.
So we're testing some new sound equipment and some things that we're going to do on our next call or calls on Sunday and Monday. And he's in the basement of the salon, which I do have a phone down there. And he comes up at some point today and he's like, dude, the phone rings all day. Like, how do you deal with it? And he's never worked a day in an office ever. He's a good family friend. He's like 19 and he's like, oh my God, the phone all day. And I'm like, you're on your phone all day. Like you can't handle it's not a text. Like if it was a text sound, would people be like, oh, it's a text. It's cool. Like, what do you think? Does ringtone have something to do with your mental state, Avrohom?
It's very possible. I think we've been trained, especially those of us in our 40s, right? We've lived through the time period where the phones had a distinctive ringer. So when you hear that all of a sudden that means attention. It's been ingrained in our brains, and I think different ringtones can help ease that a little bit. The phone does have various ring cadences. There's some phones that have customizable ringtones, but for the most part, it does have some more pleasant ringtones as well. In order, that takes that edge off that urgency.
Do you think we could come up with a custom ringtone for like the movement salons and the Davines salons that are out there are like almost like an advertisement ringtone. And like you're lucky you're in like like one of those like old school commercials where like you're lucky you're in the chair because the person that's dialing this number right now is not as lucky as you. Like, just something to add some comic relief because it's when you're a busy salon. Listen, I know a lot of salons. We're very blessed and we're very thankful that we're as busy as we are. And I'm sure you guys are in the same mode. I know a lot of salons that aren't as busy, but man, the phone rings and it's like nails on a chalkboard sometimes from the receptionist / janitor or whatever. I don't know. What's my job title, Kurtis? My sergeant, sergeant of arms,
sergeant, fix-it man, dad, yeah.
That's it.
Plumber, electrician. Yeah, and I mean, especially for that case, and I think it is a little bit of a psychological thing as well, is that, it's all about energy, and we don't want to put energy out there where we're like, oh my God, like, why is the phone ringing? Like, it's ringing too much. When that is what we want, like, we want our bread and butter, like, that is our bread and butter, is people calling the salon and making appointments. We want that to happen. We just want to protect the communication environment, as you said, to suit the needs of it being, so that people aren't getting a stress reaction as soon as the phone's ringing all the time. And that's what's it's creating in all of our stylists, and also gets transferred to our guests. If it was something that was a little bit easier, like you're saying, that's awesome too. If it could be customizable in some capacity, maybe in the future, that would be awesome as well. But I think we've touched on a couple good points on that. That it's possible to have a system that has options to be able to press it, that you can select manually if you want it to hear the ring tones, and then you can choose those as well. What about like this thing breaks or it's just not working, or like usually user error is the main concern for things that go wrong in the salon, I find. But what's the tech support for this, Avrohom, if we're having some troubles?
Okay, so and I'm glad you asked, Kurtis. So with regards to tech support, I take that very seriously, and I've actually partnered with several businesses that have an established customer service organization, and they have 8x5 support along with 24/7 emergency support. And I only partner with businesses that I've actually done work for. So, I've gotten to feel how these companies work. I've done their installations. So one of the companies that I use is in the Silicon Valley area. So they're on the West Coast. And then I have another company on the East Coast in New York, and I actually have a third company in Connecticut. So 2 on the East Coast, 1 on the West Coast, to make sure that, should I not be available, I'm just one person. I don't want to be a bottleneck. I want to be your guide and help you get that optimum environment. And then for the ongoing support, we have partners that will take care of you all the way.
Okay. And then, so how does this thing work? Do we get to keep our phone numbers, or do we have to switch our phone numbers? We have to, like right now, in Canada, we pretty much just have one local landline provider. So I think, is this a VoIP kind of technology, or is it used the landlines, stuff like that?
Yeah. So, think of Avaya as a hybrid. Meaning that it will utilize your existing landlines. You just take that and plug that into the Avaya system. And then as your business needs evolve, you can go full VoIP where you deploy SIP-based phone service. So you get rid of your landlines and go right through the internet. So it all depends on the needs of your business, but we could definitely accommodate both kinds.
Yeah, and then if we're running our POS, because it runs through our Wi-Fi, and then I guess the emergency version of it, we go through our phone line. But if we're doing VoIP calls and stuff like that, is it going to cut down the ability of the salon to be able to operate within that Wi-Fi capability, or is it pretty seamless depending on obviously how much data you get? Sure.
Right. So actually, it would be the concern will be the other way around. In other words, not that the phone service will cut down the Wi-Fi. Your data. The concern would be, will your data interact with the phones and degrade the call quality? For that, when deploying full VoIP, that's where somebody like myself would come in and ensure that everything is accommodated for. So there's a technical term called quality of service. And that's one of the things that we go through when we deploy VoIP. We make sure that that is not an issue.
Well, and here's a good sidebar to that too, Avram. So, where and obviously on the East Coast where we are, you have multiple providers in a lot of cases. You have crazy boosted internet and all these things that you can get done. But I had worked in different IT companies before. T1 lines, which were dedicated internet lines, it used to be crazy expensive, and now they've come down in price. I know that I'm not going to mention the cable provider's name unless they would love to be a sponsor of the movement of sustainable salons. But, we have this boosted internet. As a matter of fact, we're considered a hotspot for this particular provider. So if you are a member of their cable company, you jump in the Salon, you don't even have to log into our Wi-Fi anymore. But, in terms of a lag, I know I had some updates to do to our router today. And when I jumped on, there was literally like 30 phones logged into our Wi-Fi. So, the lag that it creates, and I'm wondering why my software is not updating and things like that. But, is there any benefit into going so somebody like Kurtis, like you just said, where, if you're data heavy and you're phone heavy, is there a benefit to going that route of a T1 versus staying with your local provider and going a VIO? Like, what are your thoughts?
So, there were many terms just thrown around. so let me try to clarify everything. So James, when you mentioned T1, you're referring to an internet connection, right? So there are actually many different kinds of connections. Like, here where I live here in New York, we have fiber. And I'm using fiber. I got fiber right to the home. In other areas they use cable. Companies used to get T1s as a dedicated internet. Now that fiber is so readily available and cable provides so much better internet service than a T1 would offer. The only reason why you would go with a T1, and that's if you let's say you had a need for a guaranteed bandwidth, because the T1 is 1.5 megabits of data. That is like so 20th century or the 2000s. Now we're talking about upwards of 50 gigabits. If you got fiber, you got 150 gig to your desktop. So, T1 for internet may be a bit outdated these days. There's so many better options than that.
And what about, in terms of, and I don't know if Avaya provides it or not, but, I know when I call a lot of places now, especially, anybody that we deal with, whether it's our electric company or our credit cards and things, they used to say calls may be monitored for quality assurance. I can't tell you the last time I heard may and not will. Calls are monitored. So I know they have to be using some type of server to record these calls, whether it's you're calling, Home Depot to return something or whatever it is. Is that something that Salon should look at? Is that, I say that from my end because I'm the one that answers the phone. So, hey, you booked the appointment wrong. And not that you want to go back to a client and say, no, I have the recorded call. You told me you wanted to be Thursday at 10, not Wednesday. But in terms of liability, especially with hair color and things like that, is that something that, I'm throwing you under the bus here, Avram, too, is, what so far about the salon industry, do you think because we're, the girls, so Angela and Chantelle technically are practitioners in a field that deal with chemistry. So they're chemists, they're not doctors. Do you see like businesses like this needing to record calls at some point and needing to really amp up their phone systems?
So James, call recording actually is becoming so mainstream that Avaya actually has a searchable database, which you can basically install this, and it's just a web page that you log into, and you just put in some parameters like, okay, give me all the calls from May 1st to May 15th that called Chantelle. And I just get a listing, and then I could click on it and download the WAV files. It's like you said, James, for liability as well as also, for training staff. So if you have somebody covering the phones that maybe doesn't do that every day, so you can coach that person how to better assist clients.
Now, I know Kurtis had some questions about add-on services and things in terms of the system, but what you just mentioned is that, so if you went with the system with whether it's an Avaya system or not, are these extra bells and whistles or these things that natively these machines will do? It's just a matter of setting them up. How are they structured, Avrohom?
Yeah, so the recording feature itself is a standard feature where you could program the system to record it. The searchable database is an add-on. And then there are other features like reports that people love, and they're always asking for, because let's face it, there's a saying, you've got to measure it to manage it, and metrics are used for management. So in order to get metrics out of the system, that's an add-on as well. So you could purchase a reporting package that would give you all sorts of metrics, how many calls were answered, how many calls were lost, any missed calls, average time to answer, some important metrics to help you in your business.
Well, and here's, I'm just going to keep layering the cake, my friend. So here's another interesting add-on to that. So, and I'm a metrics guy, right? I'm born and bred in the metrics side of the world. I think there's always a way to use stats and numbers to blend for what you're working on in terms of a project. But, one of the interesting things is, so let's say you have a fully functional phone system that's able to record calls for quality assurance and, maybe just for verification purposes or to go back to from a liability standpoint. Even if you could do all of those extras, we're looking at streamlining the front end coordination. Okay. So if you said, hey, listen, every call is recorded because just in case something happens, we can go back to that searchable database and we can say, no, you said this, and you could look back on it. But, what are some of the other benefits to being able to futurize these phone systems for the salon industry, not just to kind of streamline what calls are filtered through to the actual, gatekeeper, and, what calls are recorded? Are we adding more tasks for the salon business specifically, or are we streamlining and making it more efficient in the long haul? Because a lot of salons are going to look at this, Avrohom, and say, I can't keep a salon coordinator that's engaged enough to answer the phones in an efficient way and say her name or his name, let alone go back and check the messages and go back and check, who said what when. But the salon industry is a great indicator, I feel like, because even bad salons get a lot of volume. They can manage the business as bad, but doesn't mean they don't get the traffic going through. And I feel like sometimes the telco industry and the internet side of the world, you're not thinking like, wow, this is like, no pun intended to the movement, but this is sort of like the grassroots end of, wow, they get live bodies that have an interaction that, deal with somebody that are personally touching them. So there's so many facets to the hair industry that make it interesting. But, owners of salons are like, man, we want the phone to ring, but how do we get it to ring the right way? How do we figure out what calls are worth recording? What's worth, if I had a button I could click and say, somebody calls with a crazy allergy question, which is sort of my forte. I'd love to say, hey, I'm going to put you on hold and click record. Oh, we're going to record this one because this is a great one for training, where every client that forgets to rebook and then it's pissed because they can't get that Saturday, which is the next day. What do you think the future is for customer service based businesses that have such a handheld version, not just retail, but what do you think that is going to be the next wave for us?
So, James, I'm a big fan of having your cake and eating it too. I've said that.
I love the saying, man. I love cake, that's for sure. But
I'm all for empowering people to utilize whatever features are needed at the time they're needed. So you hit on a good point, because with call recording, there's a lot of flexibility. So like you said, James, let's say you don't want to record every call because no one's going to go through that database and go through every single call, and it may just add more cycles to your administration. So you can actually have a button programmed that says record on it, and you just hit that. You don't even have to put the caller on hold. You just hit the button, and on the screen it displays record, and now you're good to go. You can do that. And then you could also selectively record certain people. So, you may want to record, the appointments, but, the people working in the stock room don't need to be recorded. So you can selectively choose which calls are recorded automatically as well.
Well, and just a tiny sidebar, when we talked about prompts on the phone, so, press 1 for directions. I don't need to record that call. Press 2 for our operating hours. Press 3 for, crazy questions that are really hard to answer. Can you make it with these systems now where anytime somebody presses 3, like those are always recorded so that we can decide if we want to take you on as a client or not?
Yes. So you can, and basically what you're doing is you're recording by hunt group. All right. So
okay.
Hunt is basically a group of phones that ring. So you specify, I want to ring when these phones ring, or when this option is selected to ring this group of phones, record it. But like you said, if you're calling for hours, no need to record that.
No, that's good. And I think, Kurtis had mentioned earlier about the after tech support. So, what I said at the beginning of the call is we inherited this really big phone system that we don't really need, but it was there. So we're tapped into it. So, brand name wise, NEC is, what would you say, like the old version of Avaya? Like Avaya was always like the front runner, and NEC phone systems were, and I mean, you don't have to out them. If you work with them, you don't have to say it, but, for a hair salon, we have 5 lines. So in the state of New Jersey where we are, 1 line needs to be dedicated to the fire system. So 1 out of the gate is not usable. I always joke and say that's our fax line because we're a green business, so we don't fax anything. So if somebody asks me, they ring the fire department. But the other 4 ring in, and sometimes there's redundancy, and we have the hunt group set up and things like that. But we had an issue when the clocks changed this year. Give you a great example. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So a 6-chair salon, we still have 6 phones. 1 in the spa room, 1 in the break room, 2 on the floor, 2 at the desk, 1 in the basement, whatever. And the service company, it was like they wanted to cry because I couldn't get the clocks to sync up. And here we have like a big unit in the basement. So for my end as the techie, I'm like, change the clock on the unit, and they should all change. And, you call in, and they were like, so I would have paid them, because what you don't know, Avrohom, is if you work in a business with a bunch of hairstylists, has nothing to do with gender or technique or work style. they're all a pain in the ass. And any of you listen to the call that work in salons, like, I get it. You're busy. You do your thing. Something like the clocks not matching up on all the phones is like a disaster in our salon. Because who's late? One phone is 5 minutes fast. One is 5 minutes late or early. You know, it's like, hey, is my client late? Hey, can you call them? Hey, I'm booked all day. What's going on? So it creates such a weird chatter of nonsense over 5 minutes plus and minus that I would have paid them $1,000 to come in to fix it, because I don't want to hear it. But what kind of support do you guys, like something like that? Is that something you could do remote? Do you have to send out the helicopters and the team to go take care of the clocks? What happens now?
So, I just wanted to first address your earlier point about the lines. I have a different opinion about how to utilize the lines. So let's take a fire alarm. I would actually never put that in the phone system in the first place, because by putting a fire alarm in the phone system, you're actually making the fire alarm vulnerable. Phone systems are great pieces of technology and they rarely break, but should there be a fire, the phone system may be the first thing to go. And then your fire alarm line is kind of useless. So I'm always adamant about any emergency services, be it a fire alarm or let's say an elevator. Okay, so many beauty salons have elevators in them. And I actually worked with a beauty salon where they had a T1 line for not for internet, but for their phones, where they get 23 phone lines out of one line. And because there's significant cost savings, they wanted to save the $20 a month, whatever Verizon will charge them, and run the elevator through the phone system. And I refused, because they said, God forbid, if there's an emergency, now you're making that elevator vulnerable. So I like to keep redundancy and have that bat phone, so to speak. So fire alarm stays for the fire, the elevator stays for the elevator, and then everything else goes through the phone system. So that's just my personal way of doing it. It refreshed my memory here. What were we talking about? we hit on so many things.
No, listen, the phone, obviously, besides the technical aspect of what the stylists do, the phones are like, your scissors are your samurai sword. Your phones are your 9mm at that point. Like, that's what, if the phones don't ring, from the sustainable salon perspective, like, you could have the greatest staff in the world and nothing rings. So they're definitely important, but it's the tech support side of like.
Yeah. So, the good news about contemporary communications equipment is that it's all accessible remotely. So something as simple as a time change, and to your point, James, that is programmable directly on the system itself. You don't go to the phones and change the time. Everything's done centrally. And by the way, there is an algorithm in there for daylight savings. So, it already knows what dates, unless Obama makes another law, changes it. In which case there'll be an upgrade which will accommodate that. So, yeah, so it actually changes itself automatically.
No, it's really, that's cool. Listen, that's helpful, because those are stupid little easy things that, anything to make life easy.
Complex. Sorry. Yeah, but then, complex stuff like, hey, calls are ringing to the wrong place. They're pressing 1 for appointments and it's ringing in the color room, or God knows what. This stuff is all fixable remotely. The only time you really need somebody to come down on site is either your internet cut out so they can't get to the system, or if a piece of equipment's broken and somebody needs to replace it.
Okay.
Good.
So we keep our own phone lines, like they're part of the system, and then the VoIP would be over internet, right? Um, so so our numbers it would stay the same then.
That's correct. Your numbers, yeah, your numbers won't change.
Okay. And then how long does it take approximately to set this up? Like, is this pretty user friendly, or do you need to be pretty tech savvy in order to set one of these, program it, and get it all good to go?
So, the initial setup we take care of. We take care of it for you, and then what I do is I sit with you, and we do a training class where I take you through the administration, and it is pretty intuitive once you've been walked through it. So if you need to do minor tweaks here and there, you're able to do that. But the initial setup, I like to do that for you so that you hit the ground running.
Okay, and what's the time frame? So say we strike a deal, it's all paid up, we're ready to go, you're really comfortable with what our setup we need to do. I'm sure there probably have to be another offline conversation to really make sure everything is exactly the way we want it. And then you ship it out. How long does it usually take approximately for us to get up and running with it?
So I typically request 3 to 4 weeks, and that just gives us the time to go through all the requirements. And then what I do is I actually bench the system. So I put everything together, program it, and then I test it and let it run for about a week and make sure that all the kinks are ironed out. The system doesn't go up in smoke or anything like that. And then I ship it out. So 3 to 4 weeks is a reasonable turnaround time. I've done it in less time as well. But I'd say on the average about 3 weeks.
I can't believe how ecstatic I am that you said that you actually test what you're going to send out. I know in the Amazon Prime age of whatever, and Kurtis and I can attest to this with different equipment and things that we've tried for the project and being on location over the last 6 months or so. Testing is a big thing. Like, it's hard to, and salon owners and stylists that are on this call for the movement, when you bring a new service in, or if there's a new product that comes out and, you're excited, maybe you learned about it and the staff hasn't, or however the transition happens, the testing side, especially with something as important as your phone systems, your cable companies are coming in and, sidebar before I say this, Avrohom, who does line installs? Like if you went in, let's say you did a fresh install, new salon, who would you send out to do the line install? Do you have people you work with? Do you kind of orchestrate that, or who are they left to work with?
Yeah. So, there are many different options. Many times, like if you have an IT guy, I would coordinate with the IT guy. If let's say you're totally new, you don't have any connections. I do have relationships with many different businesses, and I would assist you in getting a technician to do that.
Because that's what happens is that the testing phase or the implementing something new in the salon world is just really hard. I mean, we're both in fortunate situations where we have two people that are invested in the business that have different job titles, but a lot of salon owners out there are not only the first chair behind the master stylist that runs the whole thing, and then also has to change the light bulbs and decide who they're going to use for phone services and things like that. And unfortunately, in our area, Avrohom, on the East Coast, it's like you move to an area, it's like, oh, that's that's an Optimum spot, that's a Cablevision spot, that's whatever it is. You kind of just fall in with whatever the team is for the town you move into. It's sort of like, well, that's just who's here. It's it's going to be FiOS or whatever. But when it comes to the business, I mean, they're super limited in what they're able to offer commercially. For home, they're fine. Hey, get the bundled services, get all the extra crazy channels. But in terms of business wise, I feel like working with somebody like you and a company that's able to provide all these extra services, it's paramount. It's the first thing that they do. People still call you on the phone before they just walk in the door. they might look at your website, they might go and look at your Yelp reviews and all these things, but they physically at some point have to call you and bite the bullet and say, I need to make an appointment with this guy. So I think you're doing important work.
Thank you. Yeah, and I love what I do.
Just a quick question about functionality, and then maybe we can get into a little bit of pricing ideas, so that way people just kind of get a general ballpark. I don't want to hold you to anything specific, but something that kind of came to mind, is there anything from business to client texting support where a client could text the business and we could text them back, as opposed to, through the phone system? Or is that just typical, that's only like a cell phone thing?
So I got to think about that. So you stumped me on that one, but I'll make a note on that to research that. So you're thinking that, let's say a client would text you and you would get some kind of a notification on the phone, or some kind of like a social media management queue, or that kind of thing. Yeah,
like if it's possible. I've heard that there are that this is something that's happening, but I don't know really much about it. But say somebody from their handheld device can text our line, it would, I guess, maybe be routed through the computer. I don't know, a bubble comes up or something like that. Then you can click on it and type and then send it back through. I guess somehow make it so your computer can connect, or an iPad, or I don't know. But if you do anything.
And I can answer a little bit for both of you. So we have a vanity number through Google Voice that we use. We still have our main lines and things like that. The vanity number is able to take text messages. It's also able to be an overflow. So let's just say, and I don't want to make anybody jealous, but there's been times when all 4 lines are ringing at the same time, or there's 4 lines in queue or on hold while someone's being taken care of. And there's that randomly, the unicorn of the 5th call comes in and they go to the Google Voice voicemail. So it just so happens that it's a good thing is there sometimes. Our clients, when they book with the software we use, they get a text message that they booked an appointment. They get an email to confirm the appointment a few days before. They are able to send a text through that Google Voice number that eventually routes back. It's a pain in the neck because there's no unified central location where all the information comes back into. So, Kurtis and I and Chantelle and Angela, we spent some time out at Heron Stage in San Francisco. So we had more than a few meetings, and this was definitely a topic because, I am the hair salon unicorn that I change the light bulbs, I take out the garbage, I answer the phones. I don't know how, if you see this beard that's getting grayer by the minute, it just, things happen, but, it's hard to, so we talked about training somebody. Kurtis and Chantelle have a knack for training people at that front end. I'm horrible at it. We talked about it. And I said, man, it's hard to say, hey, you have to look here for these messages and these messages come in here. So, do you see, Avrohom, now or soon in the future that there's going to be a way to unify all these different messages that come in?
I believe that is the trend of the industry. I know that Avaya has a call center option with, you could chat, and there's like email queues, chat queues, besides the voice. And I know that, ubiquity is really big. So for people, either, they may want to send a tweet or text, like you said, or or use any venue of their choice and connect with you. So I definitely see that as the future. But I'm going to look into that. There may be an option that I'm just not aware of, and I will definitely follow up on that.
Yeah, and that's a good sidebar time too. So for those of you that haven't, if you're watching us live on the salonmovement.com, you see a resources tab that's there. We've been kind of putting some interesting things that happen on the show there. If you're watching us through Blab, definitely go to the salonmovement.com and check out the resources we're going to put. Avram has a really nice PowerPoint kind of explaining his background and what he's able to do. And we'll continue to update it. I think, you're an awesome resource for us, obviously, because you're somebody that we know. And, if you haven't seen Avram before, he spends some time with Kurtis and our good friend Joe on Whiskey Fridays, giving some great business advice and things. But these are good. I'm glad to have you as a resource to say, hey, do you think this is going to happen in the future, or there's some solutions out there now? But as we start to wrap, Avram, I know Kurtis had asked a little bit about pricing, and we're all really well versed in not committing. The beauty industry loves to say end up. How long is your hair? So I know you don't have to be committed, but let's say a small salon, like the big salons know the telecommunications costs, but let somebody say has a 3-chair hair salon and they're stuck with whatever systems they have, and they're looking to kind of do an upgrade. What kind of ballpark cost can you give them if they want to get a more comprehensive system?
Like one or two phones, and they only have maybe 1 or 2 lines, and they want to reduce, the amount of reception duties that they have, so more automated features, but they'll have an opportunity to have a really good professional, perception to the clients and their experience.
Okay, so I just want to clarify some terms. So there's phones and then there's lines, and many people may be confused by the interchangeability of those terms. They actually mean different things. So a line is something that comes from the phone company, and then a phone is an instrument that you put on a desk. So typically, let's say you have 2 or 3 phone lines coming from the outside, you may want to have more phones actually within the office. It may even take you up to 10 phones. So, for example, you may have a receptionist phone at the front desk. It may be an appointment phone, one in the spa, one in the stock room, one in the basement. Before you turn around, you probably got about 7-8 phones. So, what I did was I broke them down into different packages. Obviously, like you said, every environment is different, but there are certain similarities. So if you're talking about a small salon with 1 to 2 chairs, and you wanted excellent service and maintenance and customer support, you can get a 3-year lease on the system and pay about $550 a month. And that includes a full maintenance, including after hours support for emergencies. With every option, I always there are actually 3 different options that I put on the PowerPoint. One is basic option. That is, if you don't want any maintenance and you kind of want to take a stab at it yourself. I don't really recommend that. That's like a really low price. Then I have what's called a deluxe package, and that's that $550 a month, which is what I recommend. And then there's the premium package, which is a really great deal. Besides the full maintenance, that includes 10 hours of system modifications and optimization. So basically, besides, break fix maintenance, you also get 10 hours of consulting services where, we can change your system around if you want to set up queues, if you want to change your automated attendance, set up different schedules. Throughout the year, you can you can do different things, maybe some additional training classes. So you get that extra support, and so that's $700 a month. So those are the 3 packages.
Okay.
And then
what about even because you're saying that's 1 or 2 chair salon, but if they're only going to get, like for us, like we have three phones. Does it like 2 phones really? Does it matter? Is it by the phone that the price goes up, or is it really about it's more about the service?
It's actually, I mean, several factors go into play. It's about the size of the business, really. So that's why I said, there are a number of phones, and those number of phones, you're not actually paying. It's not the phone, the instrument itself, but it's more of, what's the hardware behind it, what are the licensing, what's the service that goes into that whole package. So obviously, if your business is like really small, then the price is going to go down. If it's much bigger, it'll be a different price as well.
Okay, so so there's kind of a base price of just like what it is for the service and everything else, and then we're also talking about leases too. So can people just buy it outright, or do they have to lease the equipment?
You can definitely buy the equipment outright. You don't have to lease. Many people ask for leasing for convenience sake because, for two reasons. First of all, there's a tax benefit because it's an operational cost as opposed to a capital expense. And then also, just from a budget wise, it's so much easier to talk about monthly terms. So I typically provide lease prices, but, we could definitely work with you if you want to just buy it straight out.
Hey, you back, Kurtis?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I said I had been muted there for a second. I just didn't want the sound of my jaw dropping hit the floor with the no, but I'm just joking. The thing is that I do want to make the point is that there's a lot of salons there that that's just completely unreasonable for their operations because it's just small. So I don't want to like scare salons away from thinking, oh, okay, well, $500 a month, then I'm out. But that there are other options that potentially could be quite a bit lower, and that we're talking about the principles of what it takes to have a phone system that meets your needs. And, like so far, like I've said, we've had our phone from Staples. It costs us, I think $300 for the past 4 years. But we've outgrown that requirement. So we're going to look for something a little bit more grown up, a little bit more professional. So, there's going to be cost to that. So we're gonna have the presentation, if it's okay with you, available on the website too under your link, if that's cool with you. We're gonna have this as an option for salons to be able to research and look at what are your phone needs. What you're a hairstylist, deal with cutting hair. When it comes to phone systems, talk to professionals like you, Avrohom, that are passionate about phone solutions, and compartmentalize this and to be able to have a real professional and sustainable program so that you can get down to what really makes you money, and that's cutting hair, so you can pay for expensive phone systems.
I love it. Well, and you know what? And that's an awesome point too, Kurtis, that, there are going to be salons that, and listen, they might not have the capacity to do a lot of things. I mean, whether it's landscaping outside and things like that, unfortunately, over the last few weeks, I've had some conversations with salon owners that, the running joke is if they knew what the expenses were, they would have said, why would we even do it? And it's hard when you add in the things that you don't think of. You're building this business and you're thinking of products and you're thinking of the equipment and you're thinking of things. And then, you say, oh, who's going to blow the leaves in the fall, which you guys don't get leaves, right, Kurtis? But, here on our side, it's like, it's a big pain in the neck, man. It's like, sometimes when the fall hits, it's like you could have somebody go out every day and clean the parking lot, and it's another expense. But you know what? Cleaning the parking lot doesn't make the phones ring. It doesn't make them ring efficiently. So, hopefully with the project, we'll eventually be able to highlight some things of, not saying let's make certain things important or more important than others, but, I think from my end, especially because I'm the one that touches the phone all day long. As a matter of fact, I have one phone that nobody's allowed to touch. It's my phone because I don't want their greasy hands and germs all over it. But it's an important part. I mean, for me, it's the most important part of my day is, being able to make sure those calls get in queue the right way and where they go. So hopefully we'll be able to put some things up on the site. And I know Avrohom's going to work out something for any of our Davines salons out there that are part of the movement. For what we're going to do, Avram, we're going to do a complimentary consultation.
Yes.
Which is great. And if I can attest, like I said, I've been on a bunch of calls where Avram's been a guest along with Kurtis and our friend Joe. He's definitely an expert in the telco side and dealing with the phone systems. He also knows the competitors and what types of systems they have. He's also very open-minded in saying, hey, I might not be the right solution, but there's a solution out there, and giving you some guidance. As the hair people know in the world, you provide a lot of free consultations for people that call up with hair services you don't even know how to book. So we definitely in this world appreciate a complimentary consultation, Avram.
Yeah, man. And when it comes to, the actual phone pricing as well, just something I was thinking about. Sometimes, we've had two receptionists going, just because, we just didn't want to have the phone ringing that way. And, that's a lot more expensive than what you're talking about, the price per month too. So, for salons out there, maybe you can reduce your costs on your receptionist wages. And then you're also not paying CPP and EI and all the other issues with regards to scheduling. And, look at this as, really look at this as an opportunity to get more efficient and to save on some of your expenses. And that's what we're doing here with the salon movement. We're not just talking about all the bells and whistles. What we're doing is we're actually trying to save us all more money and become more sustainable and be able to do what we love. So thanks again, Avram, for spending this time with us. I really, really do appreciate it. I know you have a lot of things going on, so it was great to have you on the show. For all the salons out there, you can find Avram as one of our sustainable partners on the website. It'll be up right away. This call obviously is recorded and available for your reference in the future. And so good to see you, Avram. I might see you tomorrow on Whiskey Fridays. James, I'll definitely see you on Saturday, and I can't wait to come by and try to find your phone so I can touch it and put all my germs on it.
I can't wait, man. And listen, Avram, definitely thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll do a follow-up on this too, because Kurtis and I had talked about some different solutions and things that that we want to try to implement. So hopefully we can do a little bit of a walkthrough from point A to point B. Kurtis, I will see you guys very soon in a couple of days. As a matter of fact, for all of our listeners out there, you'll probably get a lot more media blitz on this, but we're going to be recording, hopefully if it doesn't get rained out, at Culinary Bushwick, which is Chelsea Pickthorn, their event out there in Brooklyn. They do this awesome music-driven event that Davines is sponsoring this year, which is really cool. We're also going to be Monday on with Francesco Ferri from Salon Concrete with our good friend Christine Zielinski out in Red Bank, New Jersey. And we'll be live from Ion Studio, right, Chantelle?
Yeah.
Chantelle will be primping her model, but Kurtis and Angela and I will be hopefully outside, hopefully absorbing some really awesome New York weather. It's supposed to be about 90 degrees, and we'll get to talk to Leo and hopefully Marco. We'll have Francesco on, as I mentioned, Christine, our good friend Russ, obviously, who does the social media for Davines, and maybe we'll get Green Circle back on as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about education this Monday coming up. But definitely excited. Avram, thank you so much, man. Kurtis and Chantelle, always good to see you, and I will see you very soon.
Bye, guys.
Hey, guys.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. So I just...
Do